So a new report blowing up the Biden White House narrative on the Chinese spy balloon. According to reporting from NBC News, the communist spy craft that floated across the entire United States was indeed hovering over sensitive military sites and sending secrets back to Beijing in real time. The news flies in the face of what President Biden told the American public at the time.
Do you regret not having insisted on bringing it down sooner?
No. The total amount of intelligence gathering that's going on by every country around the world is overwhelming. And the idea that a balloon could traverse, break American airspace is, anyway, it's not a major breach.
Anyway, it's just not a major breach. I mean, that was a weird moment when that happened, when the president said that. I think everybody was watching this balloon floating across the country, Janine. And now we're learning that it was doing, according to this NBC report, the Pentagon is pushing back on this, to be clear. It was doing, according to them, Janine, it was doing figure eights.
Yes.
Over Malmstrom Air Base, Offutt Air Base, where we have our largest silos of intercontinental ballistic missiles.
Right.
So somebody needs to come clean here if this report is accurate, because this is highly problematic. And I also think that this is around the time that you started to see the former president's numbers go up, because people wanted some action on this issue, and they felt, I think, very unnerved by the lack of action.
Well, I think everyone felt unnerved, because all you had to say was it's a Chinese spy balloon or a Chinese balloon, and everybody's back, the hairs on the back of their neck went up, because it didn't make sense that this was something that was checking the weather or the climate. And the amazing part of it is that when NBC makes a decision that they're going to go with the story, who confirmed it before they decided to go with the story? It had to have been someone from the Pentagon. It had to have been someone who knew about it. And then the issue is, how dumb do they think the American people are? That the Chinese, that we are in this political war with right now, in this economic war, and there's talk of even worse, is just checking what our weather is. I spoke with someone today who's in the military. He said to me, you know, Janine, they have the ability, the Chinese, that if they have a balloon, they can send information to a satellite that then sends it to China. And I said, well, can we interfere with it, sending it to the satellite? He said, we have nothing that can interfere with that. He said, so in that regard, whatever they were doing, we couldn't have stopped. So my question is, it makes the most sense that he was collecting information over the IC, intercontinental ballistic missile sites. So what have we done about it? If we found out, if the NBC story is accurate, that they were collecting information in real time over our military assets, what have we done about it? Did we pull back our ambassador? Did we close an embassy? Were there any consequences? Were there any threats? No, the only thing we heard was that Biden couldn't get Xi Jinping on the phone, and that I think it was Colonel Austin couldn't get his counterpart on the phone either. So, you know, it's a very frightening situation. And then you find out about China and Hunter and money. You don't have to be a rocket scientist on this.
You know, Greg, recall at the time that the reason that they said they couldn't shoot it down was because it might land somewhere in Montana and hurt somebody on the ground. So balance that against, and you know, many people, you know, including Senator Daines from Montana, said, look, we can make sure we're shooting this over an area where we're not going to have a problem. Balance that against the potential loss of intelligence that was gathered at that same time.
Well, you know, it's hard to talk about loss of intelligence with Joe Biden. You know, he's very frustrating. He's more frustrating than China as a country, because we know what to expect from China, but we can't expect anything from Joe or depend on anything from Joe. We don't know what he might do or what, I mean, I'm going to say, the thing that's more dangerous than this balloon debacle is the TikTok disaster. This is where I think China is brilliant. So 2 weeks ago, we had this American political unity in banning TikTok. It was a really big thing. You saw Democrats, Republicans, and then all of a sudden it's DOA. It just stops. Right. And it's because of the Restrict Act. It's no longer about TikTok. It's about these VPNs. I won't get into it. They're virtual private networks, but we all do it. I mean, humans do it. It's not just China. So that's the poison pill now. That is about government encroachment and not about China. So China is like already one step ahead of us. This had to have been in the cards from the start. China wins. You see what I'm saying? That they somehow got this other thing going. So we'll never ban TikTok. That's brilliant.
Harold?
So I think a couple things. One, I think Greg's point about TikTok is right. I differ with your conclusion. I think this makes it more likely that we institute some sort of ban on it for all the reasons you enumerate. I just don't necessarily agree with your conclusion.
But it can't be through that Restrict Act because it's not just TikTok. It's all these other things.
Right. So I think we have to think about it more broadly than TikTok. I think when you think about how the moral compass around how social media was developed in this country, and we allowed those technologists to rush into that, and now the harms we see from, I've been on your show talking about the mental health harms at TikTok and, for that matter, other social media platforms. I don't trust the morality of technologists around this, and we are in a war with China on this front. Anyone who suggests that we're not in a Cold War with China, I think, is foolish. When you think about their buildup, their Navy in the South China Sea, when you think about the stealing of IP over the many decades, and obviously what we're challenged with now in terms of our info gathering with what they do with TikTok, these are serious, serious issues, not to mention the economics where they own so much of our debt. When you consider their involvement in Ukraine, their involvement in Africa, in the Middle East. I'm troubled by this story. I'm more troubled by this story than some we've talked about in a while in terms of the administration and what they're telling us and what they're not telling us. It seems as if the story changes as more reporting comes out. If that is strategic because we don't want the Chinese to understand what more we know about them, that's one thing. But I am not convinced. That's not a settled view on my part.
We were told in real time, Jesse, that
I know. That's why I'm concerned.
that they weren't able to get anything, that they had shut down all of the, that a big shield essentially comes down over these ICBM sites, and we don't have to worry about anything. We pulled all the plugs out of the wall, and they got nothing, right? And then today they're asked about it at the Pentagon, and the press secretary says, I can't really confirm anything about that report.
Yeah. When your spouse comes home late and they tell you one story or they tell you 12 stories, what makes you more suspicious? 12, and I have them counted right here. First, they said it was an accident and the wind took it. Then they said Biden wanted to shoot it down but was overruled. Then said they couldn't shoot it down earlier because it was too cold in Alaska and too dangerous in Montana. And then they said the balloon didn't spy on us, we spied on the balloon. That was my favorite. Then they said, we just threw a blanket over the silo and they didn't get anything. And then they said China was flowing balloons all over the place under Trump, but Biden's the big popper. And Biden just started shooting everything out of the sky, and then happened to be all these balloons that were like from some like mom and pop Eastern Illinois balloon club deal.
Yes, that's right.
And then they got mad and said, Blinken, you can't go to dinner with the Chinese. And then they shot one down and missed with the $2 million missile. And then we found out that the Biden family was taking millions from China. But we were really mad if they were going to send weapons to the Russians. Oh, actually, now they are sending weapons to the Russians, but it's really no big deal because it's only guns.
So you're saying China's cheating?
I think China's cheating, and I think we can't believe everything the Pentagon tells us.
So we'll leave it on that eerie thought.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.